Welcome to episode 29 of the Talkin' Pop podcast. Guys, how about that episode of Moon Knight?
Yeah, I'm ready to talk about it.
Wow.
That was satisfying.
It was.
Satisfying. That's the best way I can put it.
We're going to do, like we've done the last couple of weeks, we're going to talk about Moon Knight in like the second block of the show. But I'm going to tease it right now and say to you both, I've got a hot take about that episode, and then I have a hot take about the show as a whole. So
all right,
stick around and you can hear my two hot takes. But first, we got some news kernels of the week. It is sequel season, my friends.
apparently.
Yes, it is.
Cinemacon happening over the weekend, and we finally got the announcement that we've all been waiting for. The Batman 2 is officially getting made. Guys, I don't know about you. This announcement took longer than I thought it would.
Do you know what? I think that was a tactic. I think that was probably just a marketing tactic of like, let's really build the why haven't they announced it yet? Why haven't they said something yet? Like, everybody knew this was getting greenlit. There's no chance it wasn't.
Yeah, there was no chance it wasn't. I think there's been just lots of flurry of information coming out from CinemaCon, so maybe that was sort of what they were waiting to. Rob, if you're enjoying a glass of wine there, you just
Yes,
can
I'm enjoying
you
it,
just
yeah.
distracted me.
Yeah.
Cheers, my
Cheers.
friend.
Oh,
But yeah, we knew this movie was going to get greenlit for a sequel. I think the timing was just to line up with CinemaCon, and yeah, tell me something I don't know. Tell me something I'm already excited about.
The official release says that Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson, Jeffrey Wright, are all returning, and Andy Serkis as well. And I'd imagine like those are just the four names that they listed, but I'd imagine like given like this world that Matt Reeves is crafting and sort of like cameos and appearances, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a scene here or there that has Paul Dano, that has Colin Farrell, that has potentially Zoe Kravitz, that has Barry Keoghan.
My thing right now is I just think it comes down basically to who's actually signed on the dotted line. I don't actually think that necessarily, like, there's always negotiations that go on, and if they've just like kind of officially greenlit this thing, they already kind of know what the next story is going to be. So they got to get like, how much did the movie make the last time? How much did I get paid last time? How much should I be getting paid this time? I think that that's all. It's coming. It's coming. All these guys are going to be back.
I also think that those are the characters that at the end of the movie, like, aren't in jail, haven't left town. Like, those are the ones that are confirmed because we know that they're still in Batman's inner circle, right? Whereas we don't want to have any spoilers by saying, well, Zoe Kravitz is back, right? And then you kind of ruin that ending of her seemingly going off on her own adventure. I'm sure we're going to see her in the sequel. We got to continue with that love story. That was
too good.
100%. So I want to have a bit of fun with you guys here. Just really quickly, what's one thing that you hope to see in the sequel? Like, I know, Kelly, you and I did a whole episode like a month and a half ago about this, but now that it's officially been announced, like, what's one thing that you really hope to see in the next movie? Kelly, we'll start with you.
I hope, and we kind of talked about our picks, so I won't go into all that. Go back and listen to that episode, folks. But I guess like I'm sort of answering your questions in a backwards way. I hope that we see a main villain that's not the Joker. That's what I hope we see. And that's no hate to Barry Keoghan. That's, it wasn't my favorite interpretation, but Matt Reeves did a really good job of building a Gotham that we haven't quite seen yet. So I want to see more characters that we haven't spent as much time with in Matt Reeves' world and in his vision. So I want to see a baddie that's maybe a little different that we haven't seen in a recent movie.
Brad.
I'm gonna go the complete opposite way of you, Kelly. I was gonna say I want to see a more fleshed out Joker. The thing is they've already introduced him, so what are they gonna do? Just like take a back seat again? Although like this is literally a stream of consciousness right now because my thing is like if you're gonna do it, obviously we got like our little taste. I don't think anybody was particularly blown away. I think we were all a little taken aback by the what seemed to be random
Randomness. Yeah.
release of that full scene just coming out like what a couple weeks after the release, and we were like,
I
"What is
think I
happening
think
here?"
that was market research. If you know what I
But
mean? Like
that's
they were like, let's see what people
I
think
agree.
if we put in the sequel.
It was pretty inexplicable because we were all just like riding this high of the movie, and then all of a sudden we're getting this full scene, which didn't even make the final cut. But anyway, despite that, I just think that based on what we did get in the actual film itself, and then that right afterwards, and what you just said, Kelly, it's clearly like some sort of market research situation here. I think the overall response was still positive. I think people were thinking like, "Oh, this is a really dark, really creepy, gross, if I could
Disturbing.
say
Yeah.
that,
Gross. Yeah.
disturbing Joker." And I'm actually, I would be curious to, in my particular sense, based on what Rob is asking, I would be curious for them to really flesh it out in this one. And I don't know that I want like a full in your face Joker like being the main baddie necessarily, but I want more than what we just got in the last one. Because if this is Matt Reeves' tactic that this is going to be building to a crescendo with the Joker, I'm good with that. I want to see what like involvement he has more in like the underbelly of Gotham more. I want to see, or like even at Arkham, like I want to see that sort of fleshed out a little bit more and get a little bit more of Barry Keoghan's Joker in general. Like visually, I want to see more of
So, as is the case always with Batman, the three of us are going the villain route. So,
him.
I got 3 words for you:
Here we go.
Court of Owls. Give me
All
the
right.
Court of. I am salivating for the Court of Owls, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
We have never seen it in live action.
Nope.
It's a super compelling story in which you can involve as many characters as you want, because the story of the Court of Owls is they've existed in Gotham for centuries, and
Mhm.
you could go and interrogate the Penguin. You could go and ask the Joker what he knows. You could go and talk to Paul Dano. You could find another villain along the way. You could uncover, again, we're leaning more into the detective sort of noir
Yes.
thing that I think worked really well. And I just,
Mhm.
again, like the roots of his parents, like you could dive in deeper into that. And like, it's just going deeper than the mob, and
Yeah.
something new,
Yep.
and that is something I think it's right there. I think it's on a silver platter. I think it'll work so well. I think Matt Reeves is the perfect guy to tell the Court of Owls
Our
story.
our Pats basically said like,
Yeah,
yeah, I think they'd
Mhm.
be in a sequel in one interview.
yeah,
So I
like
wonder if he's
let's
letting
do
one
it.
slip
I
there.
just, like, don't get me wrong, like Batman's like Rogues Gallery is iconic, and I want to see as many new interpretations of the villains as I can. But like, the fact that we've never seen Court of Owls in live action ever before is so intriguing to me. And it's like, it's not like you're gonna use like Calendar Man. It's like you're gonna use like an epic
Yeah.
comic book villain that will get over so well with people. And like I said, it lends itself to telling a broader story. And like
I
Court of
very
Owls.
much agree. I very
Yeah.
much agree. And I think that actually kind of lends itself to what I was saying about the Joker. Like I don't want him necessarily to be like the forefront villain.
Yeah.
I think I think you kind of want this lingering feeling that that we now, especially after the first movie, know he's there. Like we already know that he's established in this world, but we're
Yep.
not really getting him in its full capacity. And I would like to get that feeling even more that like the Joker is also aware of the Court of Owls. He is potentially even worked with them in some capacity, or he's a puppet for them or whatever. I just think that
Yeah.
that actually very much lends itself to the depths of Gotham and what else is going on there. I agree, Rob.
We've got tons of, and you guys know me. We're gonna talk about this a lot until this movie eventually comes out. And
Time will
anytime
tell.
Couple
anytime
calendar
there's
years,
something
calendar man.
exciting, yeah, crazy. So moving on to our next sequel, it's Ghostbusters 2. This is my reaction to Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Boring. Boring. Like that movie was a movie, but like it's like it was not special. It was not like I watched it way later than you guys, but
Yeah.
like it's again, I'm being a little hard on it, but like it's just
I
not
was gonna
it
say, I think
wasn't
you're being a little hard.
it's just not it's not something I'm gonna get jacked up about. Like love
Oh,
Paul Rudd, love the originals, love like whatever, love Finn Wolfhard, but like
Mhm.
I just it's just not something I'm gonna get super like we'll see it because this is the type of podcast that we do, but like I just it's not something I've got circled on my calendar that I'm waiting with bated breath for.
and it's tricky because that movie was so steeped in nostalgia and it was so about bringing that
Yeah.
original cast back. Like that was the crescendo. They even brought back the original villain. Like it. So like. Are they gonna do, Vigo in the next one? Like, is
Yeah.
that the model that they're
I
taking
doubt
here?
it.
Or, we ended off the last movie in New York, which I like.
They just have dancing toasters and purple slime in the
Yeah,
second one.
why not? It's
Yeah,
pink
like,
slime,
too
Rob.
much.
Come
And they
Too
on.
bring
much.
back what's his name? He is Vigo.
Oh my god, I love that guy.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that guy.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't think of his name.
Oh my god, I
um,
know.
but yeah, so it's like I just kind of I don't think I'm attached enough to the characters that were in this movie because we spent so much time kind of nostalgia dumping on people that
Mhm.
so you know what, it's not to say it won't be a good movie. I'm sure it'll be enjoyable, but I'm not counting down the days because it just didn't hook me enough
Yeah.
with the new cast of characters.
Peter McNichol.
There
Well,
you
that's
go.
the yeah, that's
He is
that's
Vigo.
yeah.
It's Vigo. Dude, listen, I I'll say this. I don't think well, actually, let me preface this by saying the bar was quite low as far as Ghostbusters sequels were concerned after
Yes, 2016.
I don't
Yeah.
I was going to say was it 2015, 2016?
Uh,
Okay. The bar was quite low, let's be real. And I actually think that that was a waste of that cast. I thought that was had actually the potential to be really good based on who was in it. But the I just thought if you could have married some of the cast of that movie and put them in this higher quality setting that we got with the most recent sequel, that to me almost reads as like some sort of recipe for genius because I just think that the level of comedy is the same that actually we got in the originals, but it didn't land. And then in this
mm.
one, it was just like what Kelly said. It was a lot of nostalgia dumping. And I still think a solid outing, like BB plus. I didn't walk out of it being like, ugh. But
I was being a dick off the top. It's just
it's
not
fine.
it's
You were
just
fired
not
up.
I
You
just
were
didn't
fired
I
up.
just it's like I said, it was a movie.
There was children in it again.
Yeah.
Rob's not into it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
But yeah,
the recipe for disaster in
Yeah,
Rob's
not
yeah.
books.
down.
But I would, you know what? I don't know what their overall plan is here because obviously they just announced that they're going to do a sequel. There must be
Yeah.
something in the works as far as an idea. But I do think it would be good to bring Reitman back. I do think that there is potentially room to bring back some of the cast from the other sequel, like a Melissa McCarthy or something like that. And maybe just don't do this whole like pretend like that one didn't happen kind of thing and maybe try to bring them in because I do think a comedy dynamic of like a Melissa McCarthy and like a Paul Rudd I think would work really well. But anyway, that's just me. I'm
Mm.
spitballing here because we got the news today and I'm like, what are they gonna
You're
do?
always
Because
Yeah.
looking at the bright side. Always.
I'm trying. I'm trying, guys.
Well, Brad, I
But
really
that
want
brings
to
us
watch you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to watch you try and look at
that
the
was the
bright side.
worst.
Yeah.
That was the worst possible time for us to be like, yeah, it's pretty positive, you know.
Yeah.
Oh God,
I
yeah, go
really
ahead.
want to hear you try and look at the bright side for this next one. As it was announced, we are getting Venom 3. Kelly, take it away.
What are they doing? Like
Yeah,
what
I don't know.
are they doing?
Yeah.
I
know.
thought you know what? Like shame on me, okay? Because I thought at the end of Spider-Man when he went back to where he came from that I was like, all right, like
That was it.
That's our way of like Tom Hardy's like, he served his purpose. He came into like our MCU universe. He dropped some Venom goo and he's on his way.
Mhm.
The shame on me for thinking that that was the end of this because of course
No.
it's not. I don't know
Just
what
gonna
the hell they're doing. I honestly
squeeze those pennies out of it.
like
This
I
this
I I have no words. This is so bad.
we have
Mhm.
spent a ton of time on this podcast crapping all over the DCEU with Warner
Yeah,
Brothers and saying like let it go, like it's a disaster. At least certain movies in the DCEU,
I
like Man
agree.
of Steel, made a bunch of money. Aquaman made $1 billion.
Yeah.
Wonder
Mhm.
Woman 1 is pretty like a lot of people like that movie.
Good movie. Good movie.
No one likes any of these Sony
They're
Spider-Man,
terrible.
and they don't do well. They don't rate well. They don't like
No.
Morbius is being called one of the worst movies ever made, and for some reason every film that every because it's like a Spider-Man universe, right? So
Mhm.
it's like any film that they put out that does not have Marvel Studios babysitting them is an unmitigated disaster. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're making an Aaron Taylor Johnson Craven the Hunter movie as well. And it's like, what's the end game here? Like what are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to accomplish? This is terrible. It's terrible. Like I don't.
Also, can I
Yeah,
can,
go ahead.
can I just throw something out there really quick because I don't want us to get too far down the rabbit hole with Venom and not bring this up. I feel like I've tried to bring this up one other time. Can we stop recycling fucking actors who have already been in the MCU?
Yeah,
Why?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
Why?
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
There's
yes,
so many actors. Why are we
yeah.
doing this? Like,
I
and it
don't
has
know.
nothing to do with Aaron Taylor Johnson. He is actually fantastic. I think he's actually a very underrated actor. But I can't
We've
wrap my
seen it.
mind around
We've
it. It's
seen
like
it. Yeah,
how many how many times are we became actors over and over again in different roles within this world? It's like, okay, clearly this is like, if this isn't also like feeding into people's dialogue about like how there's too many superhero movies, the fact that you are recycling lead actors that have already been in it into other
yeah.
ones that are whether they're directly associated or not, it doesn't matter. I realize it's Disney versus Sony, but they're still connected. Stop
Yeah.
recycling
Like
the actors. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
literally, we've
yes, yes.
established that those
Yeah,
universes are connected in
It's
canon.
they're connected.
it's
Yeah.
it's
Sorry, but go ahead. I
unfathomable,
just
and
needed to get that
they
out.
well, Sony might as well put out a press release that says we're just trying to make money. Like that. Like seriously.
Yeah.
Like there's no end game. There's no direction. There's no. It
Mhm,
makes you like
mhm.
honestly like I ease up on Warner Brothers and DC when I think about
Yeah.
Sony what they're doing because like at least Warner Brothers and DC have had a somewhat success on their hands with
Yeah.
certain movies. It's
Yeah.
it's insane. It's insane.
Well, it's
I,
Yeah.
also
I don't.
just adding to the overall comic book movie fatigue that everybody is talking about, which is just like, okay, yes, there are a lot of studios putting out a lot of as much comic book, IP material that they can get their hands on right now because it's the hot ticket. Like you can't blame them. They're playing the hot hand. But by the same token, you have to pump out
Make it
crap.
good. Yeah, make it
Just make
good.
it
Yeah,
good. It's not that
yeah,
hard. It,
yeah.
it it cannot be that hard. You've got a
Mhm.
lot of really good actors involved. You've got a lot of talented directors and writers and like it's not like Sony just exclusively puts out crap. It's not like it's some like weird offshoot studio that we've never heard of. It's Sony Pictures. Like what are you doing? But
Mhm.
you can make the same argument for Warner Brothers too where it's like they owned all the rights of those characters for literal decades and didn't do anything with it. And then they just decided to shoot them out all at once and make no sense really. But anyways, again, I'm going down the rabbit hole here. But regardless, I just feel like, yeah, like I almost don't mind at this point if you're going to do it, but just do it well. Like I don't
Yes.
understand. Like the information is all right there. Pick the
Mhm.
best arcs from the comic book series and just film it. That's all you got to do. You've got great
Yeah,
actors that want to be involved.
It's
Just do
just
it.
it's just so uninteresting. Like it's
yeah.
like we've just had
Well, that's how they've made
two.
it.
But like that's what I mean. It's like you've taken this iconic villain, you've turned him
Yeah.
into an anti-hero that's like
An idiot.
an idiot. Like, and it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, like it's so uninteresting because it's like you've even taken the best part, which is probably the casting of Tom Hardy, and ruined that because the only people who I can fathom are paying money to go see this, other than us source ops who have to do it for this podcast,
Mhm.
are like broskies who are like, oh, Tom Hardy's sick. And it's like, when you go see him in this
Tom
movie,
Hardy's sick.
and you go see him in this movie,
So
and he's
cool,
a
bro.
dork. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
Like, this is not
Just
fun. It's terrible.
to put a
No,
bow on
I
this,
agree.
pick up the phone. Sony senior executives, pick up the phone, call Kevin Feige, say, how come every time you're involved, we make $1 billion? And
Yeah.
every time you're not, we put out a film that is literally being called the worst movie ever made in Morbius.
That's
It's not like,
ooh. I
yeah,
feel
it's not
bad.
like,
I do feel
is
bad
it-
for people that are involved with it.
it's not like it's like a little bit of like a downfall. It's like, no, like you go from Spider-Man
Yeah.
No Way Home, which made $1 billion in 5 minutes, to
Mhm.
Morbius.
To the worst movie of
Mhm.
all time.
God,
Yeah, and they were
Anyways.
like directly correlated. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, how do you even do that?
that's enough breath
Yikes.
wasting on Venom. All right, like I said earlier, Cinemacon this weekend, lots of great news. I'm going to open it up to you guys. Tell me something that
Yeah.
you're really excited about. Kelly, go ahead.
You know what? If I told you guys that there was a movie coming out on July 21st, 2023 that has an all-star cast,
Like
what
no
would you
joke.
go- No, because we've got the Barbie movie coming out on the same day as Oppenheimer. So this is like an all-star day at the movies in my
Two
books.
all-star casts going toe to toe. And you
I
know
gotta
what?
be honest.
No, but you know what?
Go ahead.
All the dude, if I was Warner Brothers and Chris Nolan, I'd be
It-
like looking over my shoulder, because I think you're gonna get a lot of women and children and stuff going to see Barbie,
Yeah.
and I'd be looking and saying, well,
And
like,
dudes, like
yeah,
you've got Ryan Gosling, who like has that same Tom Hardy like
just
bro factor, like just
perfect Ken.
yeah, he's just great. And then you've got like Simu Liu, and then you've got Will Ferrell, America Ferrera, Kate McKinnon, Michael Sarah.
Mhm.
Like this is a
And
great, like we would
You
kind
didn't
of
mention Barbie herself, the most
Mar-
beautiful woman on earth.
Margot Robbie.
Margot
Excuse me.
Robbie.
I just felt that
Yes.
went without saying. But the reason why I bring up that these two movies are coming out, despite them being vastly different, is like we've talked a lot about on this podcast of like, are we in like the point where like the death of the movie theater, or have superhero movies taken over the world? And it's like these are two big ass blockbusters coming out on the same day next summer, and that's like really exciting. So yeah, the first image of the Barbie movie, Margot Robbie is Barbie. This is like the
Mhm.
6-year-old child in me is screaming. And as I look at the rest of this cast, I just think it's so fun. And it's Greta Gerwig and Nora Baumbach, and like it's just so cute. Like it just makes me very happy.
Mhm. It
Straight
does
up,
look. It looks
like,
fun. It looks fun.
yeah, straight up, like, is Barbie gonna like destroy Oppenheimer opening weekend? No, but if I'm Warner Brothers, am I looking at that going, isn't Warner Brothers the studio that's releasing Barbie?
Potentially.
I'm
So
pretty sure they are.
maybe they're just covering their bases across,
I'm pretty
right?
sure they are.
Like
Let me check.
I'm pretty sure they are.
yeah, so I mean they're covering their bases across if that is the case. And what are you
Keep
guys
talking, Kelly. You're
find?
buying us time to look and see what the studio
I was
is.
gonna say now we need to know.
Yeah, now you
Yeah.
For the
guys
listeners,
need to know. You
for
guys
the listeners,
need to
me and
know.
Rob are scrambling to try to figure out who's
Yeah,
producing
you guys
this
are
thing.
scrambling.
I'm
I-
99%. Yes, it is Warner Brothers.
Oh, there we go.
There you
Thank
go.
you, guys. I was
So-
sweating there. I'm
so
only
that's
working off of a
interesting.
still guide. There's still guys. There's no trailer yet. I only have
Why
so
wouldn't
much
they
to say
break
about
that
this
up?
movie.
I wouldn't be
I don't
surprised if
know.
they end up. They're going to end up splitting those two movies up. They're going to do them
Yeah.
back to back weekends. There's no way. Warner Brothers
Yeah.
isn't dumb. Why would you split your audience? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
They've been kind of dumb before.
Oh.
Yeah, Brad.
Good night, everybody.
Brad. Careful,
Whoa.
careful.
Wow.
All right, Brad,
Um,
over to you.
Okay, well, there was two big things for me that I saw that really kind of got me excited and, uh, just excited for what's coming down the pike. And I'll start with the big one, which is we haven't got a trailer or anything yet, but we will be getting a trailer for the long-awaited sequel to Avatar. Finally,
Mhm.
After
12.
come
What is it? 12 years.
something
It's
insane
12
like
or
that.
13. The original came out in 2009. Don't ask me to do math. So it has been a long time coming. And the thing,
Avatar, the way
The
of
way of the
water.
water.
the way of the water, yes.
Oh no,
And
way of water.
Way
Kelly's
of
way
right.
of water.
There's no
Way
second
of water.
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry. Oh my
Mm,
god.
mm.
How dare I? But the okay, so the big thing for me with this has just been this continuous talk of James Cameron and his attention to detail and how he actually does things. And this has been a project that has been almost the thing of legend for quite some time
Yeah,
now,
it's
where it
been
was
in
kind of like
development forever.
forever. But he said he
Yeah.
wasn't willing to do the sequels until the technology caught up. And the thing that's crazy about that statement is this is the guy who did the 3D technology that really kicked off the 3D movie going experience
Yep.
and it really kind of lived and died by that because quite honestly it was the best one and pretty much the only real 3D movie we got during that whole era of 3D movies because it was actually shot that way. So anyways, my point being here is that I'm trying to understand like what he could possibly be doing that is going to top that sort of level of impact that he had on film. That I don't know. I'm really excited to see what he's got coming. But the other one
And
that I
we're
think
gonna
is
we're gonna talk about the trailer when it drops. We will
we
have an
are going to be
in-depth
talking about
Yeah,
breakdown
that.
of it.
footage is going to be tacked on to Doctor Strange.
That's
Is
correct.
the rumor?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
yes. I think that is.
Number two,
Yeah, I
Brad.
think that's official. Yeah, but number two is the Chip and Dale movie that's coming out. Oh
Chip
my
and Dale
god,
Rescue Rangers. Have you guys
Rescue
seen the
Rangers.
cast of Chip, Dale, and Bob?
We have, but
John
list them off, pal.
Mulaney,
John
Andy
Mulaney, Andy
Samberg.
Samberg, and Seth Rogen.
Yes,
Cute.
and anybody that is our age or even a bit older, uh,
Mhm.
if you didn't make the connection to this as being an echo of Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
Yeah.
Mm.
you dumb. Because it's like actually that. And that movie meant so much to me when I was a kid. And it has all the echoes of that with like the different mediums of, there's live, action real people on film mixed in with like the cartoons. And you've got all the different like sort of Disney characters floating around interacting with each other in this kind of cartoon world, even to the point where I think it's Chip. I don't know. In the trailer, essentially says he had his CG rendering surgery, and he actually like now looks like the 3D version, like
Yeah,
this, like
yeah.
the Pixar version of
Yeah.
Chip. Oh my god! It's just
When
like
you
those
see
little
it's those
details.
three guys doing the voices, it's like
Yeah.
you're gonna laugh in the
Oh
movie.
yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
You're even getting Seth Rogen's Pumbaa talking to
Yeah,
another character that Seth Rogen is playing.
yeah,
I just think this is gonna be such a like when you could just see something coming from a mile away and just go, this is gonna make so much money. This is gonna
yeah.
be such a huge hit for Disney.
Mhm.
The one thing I don't know, and I did mean to check this, but maybe you guys know off the top of your head, is this going to be a theater release or is this a straight to Disney
Yeah, no, no,
Plus?
no. They're
I
back.
think it's going to
They're
be,
back
yeah, I
in
think it's going to
theaters.
be a
Yeah.
theater release.
Okay, good,
Although
because it should
it's
be.
interesting
If
because you say, Brad, like you think it's going to make a truckload of money. I'm actually interested to see like, because it is kind of like from a different generation. So just kind of
Yeah.
seeing if kids nowadays respond, but that kind of goes for like Barbie as well. And
Yeah.
can I just chime in on that, Brad? And I'm good super quick because we have to get to Moon Knight. We're already 30 minutes in. So
I love it.
on the one hand, like I think it's going to be a theatrical release, but if you're paying attention to what has happened with the Batman in the last week on HBO
Mm.
Max and the gangbuster numbers that it's doing, I'm
Yeah.
thinking you're going to see a lot more of this now where the theatrical release is a lot shorter and then it gets to
Mhm.
your streaming service a lot sooner. That's I think the trend that we're headed in if the Batman is any indication.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if this is like, honestly, I think I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Because honestly, it's like if you want that movie going experience, it's still available to you. And I think
Mhm.
it does kind of actually make it a little bit more special because that means supply and demand, baby. The movie isn't going to be sitting in the theaters for 3 months. It's like, listen, you want to see this in the theater and have an experience and have it be fun and an event for you and the family or you and a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. You got your time. Go do your thing. But then also the studio gets to make a big chunk of money up front, recoup cost, hopefully be in profit, and then move it to their platform where it's just going to roll in more subscriptions and stuff. Makes sense
100%.
to
I think
me.
it's
Makes
a
sense to
really
me.
smart business model. All right,
Me too.
moving on. Uh, Moon Knight episode 5 titled Asylum. So I said earlier, I teased I had two takes earlier,
I
one
hear
about the
these
show,
takes.
one about the episode, one about the show
Yeah.
as a whole. So starting with the my take on the episode.
Mhm.
This was the single greatest episode of television that Marvel has released in any of their shows. Bar
Agreed.
none. It's not close.
Really?
I
It's not
agree.
Really?
close.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
It's
right.
not
I
close. It's
do.
not close.
All
It's
right.
not close.
All right.
It was super emotional this episode. It was super like I felt things watching it. It was just I don't know. Like I'm gonna be honest with like I've said this a lot, guys. Like the Marvel Disney shows have been fine. Like none of them have been like earth shattering. None of them. And this one,
Mhm.
to me, this felt the most like a movie, and it got the character over. And we're gonna go through the episode,
I
but I
agree.
just like I felt like the story of how Mark and Steven came to be and how Steven came to be is so
Mhm.
emotional, and it
Yeah,
struck an emotional chord unlike any other show that has even come close, not even close. Any of the other shows have come close. I'm so wound up I can't even speak. I, most amazing episode of television Disney has ever released. Touched me in my feelings.
Oh my goodness.
Kelly, I
Yes.
Wow.
think you need to go. I think you need to go next because you seem to have the contrasting
No, listen. I
opinions.
did. Listen, I thought this was pretty good, and we'll go through the beats, but just to kind of give an overarching, like, I agree with everything you're saying. Like the backstory that we got in this was essential, and it was time well spent as a member of the audience to get that context as to how does Mark and Steven and how do they interplay. Where it loses me, and we could get into the details, is I thought every time they cut back to like action, like we're back into the boat and it's the quest and the adventure and the fight scenes. I just thought they were boring as hell. We'll get into the details though, but it was like the emotional stuff
They
worked for
were
me.
short
The
though. They
action
were
stuff
short.
didn't work for me.
Yeah.
They were
Mm.
short. The action in this episode was
It just took
minimal.
me out. It just took me out of it. You know, like
Mm.
we would just kind of go back and it would be like the scales aren't balanced, and that I don't know. Like, and I think all of these Marvel shows honestly have pacing problems.
Oh, that's
I
well,
just yeah, and I just
you're
find myself a little bit concerned that we have one episode to wrap this all up.
you're hit well,
Um,
you just okay, well, spoiler alert, that was my take on the show as a whole. I think that we have a lot of ground to cover with only one episode left.
yeah,
So
Yeah,
they're gonna have to stick the landing here.
I am curious. I'm or maybe one can look this up while I'm ranting. Just
Mhm.
to kick it off here, do we have a runtime on the last episode? Is it just the traditional
No,
hour, or are we getting a longer
no, we
runtime?
I'm sure if like Disney has in their finales traditionally has gone a bit longer. Like the Book of
Yeah,
Boba Fett, for instance, that finale was quite a bit longer than the rest
yeah.
of the
Well, that's
episodes.
why I'm
So
wondering. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it clocks in at like an hour 10
yeah.
Hmm.
to hour
Hmm.
15, like that type thing. But yes, so I do agree with you there, Kelly. It's like this isolated episode aside, I am worried about how they're going to stick the landing for all the story
Yeah.
they have to round up in episode 6.
I don't agree. I think that they've actually done most of the lifting as far as like what we actually need to know. Now it's just about the payoff for me because I think that's been the biggest thing where people have been saying, it's been slower and it's whatever. And I've
But if
not to
you
put myself on
recount
some
it,
sort of
Brad, like we have to figure out what's going on. Like, do you guys still understand what's going on in the asylum with Harrow? Like, I don't like
Yeah, like
he,
what's Harrow? Like is
what's
Harrow
Harrow
pulling the
doing? Is Harrow
strings?
controlling that? We still haven't got back to Khonshu, who's still trapped in stone. We don't know where Layla is. We still are trying to uh bring Amit back. And then obviously Amit and Khonshu are going to fight, or Amit is going to um, assume Harrow as her avatar, and then those two are going to fight. And so it's
And
just
there's
like,
still been little tidbits. We may be wrong, but like there's still been little tidbits of like Jake Lockley or a third personality being in the mix
Kelly,
too. You think that's out the window?
I think Jake Lockley's out the window. I think if you're gonna do Jake Lockley, you do it in a post-credit scene that
Yeah,
teases to
true.
season
Maybe.
two. I
Maybe.
like you cannot, after finally connecting us with Mark and Steven the way they just did, you cannot bring in a third person and get Jake Lockley over in one episode while you have to finale the show.
But like maybe Marvel attempts it because they seem to have this pacing problem.
It's true.
No,
Sorry, Brad.
okay, I got it. No, you're fine. You're fine. I'm glad you guys were saying all this because it alludes to what I'm about to say. The thing for me, and I think a lot of people, I don't want to make it sound like everybody's on this page of like it has to be this way. But for me, I think a lot of people, and even within this conversation, are almost wanting this to be like all wrapped up with like a nice bow. Where for me, it's like think about any show that has this kind of ongoing narrative. I don't need this to be wrapped up in a nice little bow. This is clearly a show that they want to continue going forward. So I think if you've fleshed out some of the hard beats, which is like setting up the character, like for instance, I bring this up a lot just because I think it's a great example of a situation like what we're discussing here, which is like a Breaking Bad. When people first started watching Breaking Bad, it was kind of like, what is this? Like, we're not like, I don't understand. Like, where are we going with this? But you have to look at this not just in the right now, as far as what the story has given us, but what we're going to get in the future. So it's like, we might need to just accept the fact that season one is going to be a lot of setup because this is a new character for a lot of people. And I think that it's also a matter of not only getting the character across like this episode did so well. There
Oh
is
yeah.
a lot of detail. This is a very complicated character, and the backstory of just the personality shifts and everything else is so important that if you don't really take the time to flesh it out and just accept the fact that some people are going to maybe be a little like, what happened? We didn't even understand all this stuff. Like, it's coming. It's going to come.
But
But
I
like,
think Kelly and I are talking based on the Marvel track record, which hasn't been great. All of their shows, I agree, Kelly. All of their shows have pacing problems. Like, and all of them, and like even their movies. Like look at Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi is a great movie up until the last
Yeah,
15 minutes, and then
they
it
have
becomes
trouble.
an okay
They
movie.
have
yeah.
a sticking the landing problem,
Yeah,
and I
yeah. And
think
so that's all I'm saying. Like
yeah.
if you want to end on a cliffhanger and tease a season two, fantastic. But like
Mhm.
stick the landing and do it well. And their track record with their Disney shows has been spotty at best.
No, but
That's just my opinion.
this is why I'm contradicting you guys, is because I actually think what I'm saying is alluding to what your concerns are, is that it's like, you know, all this buildup and then jam it all in. And I'm not saying, listen, also let me be clear. I'm not saying that might not still happen. The last episode might be exactly what we're talking about right now, which is like
Mhm.
they just go, "Hurrah," and they just give you
Yeah.
all of it at the same time. That might happen. It seems like they have been so much better at pacing this show out, as far as they knew that this was a complicated story to tell, especially because of the fact that it doesn't have this like really big built-in audience. There's obviously some people, but not like a Spider-Man or something where like, yes, Uncle Ben gets shot. We know, like, move on. But this is like a really like, I don't understand what's happening here. Like, who are these, you know, ancient, gods that we're trying to understand? What is this, all the little minutia of the show and the comics, we have actually spent that time trying to understand better, and they have fleshed it out better for us, I think. more than any of the other shows. To your point, and the only thing I can say is you're not wrong. I think that there's still a chance that they do what you're saying. I think I'm just in the camp that I think there's going to be a crescendo here in the final episode. I just don't think that this is where they go like this is everything because it is going to be an ongoing setup and I'm actually getting more of a feeling that they have kind of learned from some of the past mistakes more than they're
I
continuing them.
I hope you're right. I just hope it
Yeah.
doesn't. My main concern is I just hope it doesn't lead to this rushed fight
No, me too.
between Mark and Harrow.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
And like
I
I mean,
think they're still going to
ultimately
happen. They're going to get a fight.
ultimately, everything in Marvel at this point, because of the MCU and its design, has an open ending. Like, everything is promising
Yeah.
something next. It's
Yeah.
just, obviously our hope as viewers is that this season can stand alone on its own merits, as well as building into whatever's coming next, right?
And I think
so
it
we've
has
talked.
for just me quick. I actually think it has stood up on its own. Like this was not a
Oh,
character that I
it's
was aware of, and
dude.
I've
Really enjoyed it.
I have really,
I've really
really
enjoyed it.
enjoyed it. And we're gonna get to the parts that you're about to say. So go ahead.
So we don't. I don't think we need to go beat for beat. We've had a pretty holistic conversation, so we can just talk about the big things. So it's like
Yeah.
we find out like Steven is a creation of Mark to protect himself from his abusive mother, who is upset at him for getting his little brother Randall killed by drowning in a cave.
Mhm.
And I thought, I don't know, I was just really touched by this. Like it was just
Me
like
as well.
it was such a real thing. Like it's a real, like this kid is being abused by his parent and he creates Steven as like a safety mechanism, and seeing
Mhm.
Steven have to witness this and realize that like he's not real.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
that what to me was really, really touching.
And
That
all
hit
of
me.
that
Yeah.
really worked for me. Like, let me be clear when I'm kind of talking about some of my issues with the episode. Like, all of the like real personal storytelling I thought was really well done. I was patting ourselves on the back because we've kind of theorized that that might be where like Stephen Grant comes in or where the other personalities come in. So I was like, all right, we were onto something. So
Mhm.
all of that really worked for me, right? I loved that part of the episode, and I thought it was the right backs. I thought it was also, if we are speaking of pacing, I actually thought this was the right time in this series to tell that story, right? Because
Yeah.
we've sat for a couple episodes asking ourselves these questions. And so we got this really satisfying answer this episode. Um, where it just felt a little like jarring to me was when it was like, oh right, we got to get back to our Marvel show now, right? Because I actually thought
Mm.
the character work here was kind of unmarvel, which was just refreshing because we've seen so much Marvel at this point that we're
Mhm.
hungry for something new. So I liked spending time in the new, and when we went into the old or in the familiar, that's where I got just a little less intrigued with it all.
Quickly, because Kelly, you were so taken aback by me saying that this was my favorite episode of Marvel television ever. That story between those two connected me to these characters in a way that like it made me feel so I didn't give a shit about Kate Bishop for 6 episodes. Like I didn't give a shit about her.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
I still don't give a shit about her. So like I just am super. I thought it was fantastic, and now it's like I'm really invested, and I think that's what I'm getting at. It's like it's in. I'm more invested in this
Mhm.
than I have been in any other show, and you guys know
Me as well.
sat here and I'm like, oh, I love Loki. Why do I love Loki? Because it introduced Kang the Conqueror. That's why I love Loki. Like, let's call a spade here. Like,
Yeah.
that's it. So, like, emotionally, I'm more connected to this show than I have been to any of the other shows. That's why
For
I feel
sure,
this
I
way.
can see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I think too? Is because like when you look at the rest of the Marvel shows that have come out, it's not that there weren't any stakes. There were obviously, but the
Mhm.
thing for me was it was like a continuation of things we had already gotten with,
Yeah.
Wanda and Vision, Loki,
Mhm.
the Winter Soldier, like all of these things. It's kind of like there were still stakes there, but it was something that we already kind of knew was already going on. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Whereas this kind of has it's all interconnected. Whereas with Moon Knight, it had its own set of stakes. It felt very like it fits in that world of these superheroes and everything, but it's a it felt like a truly standalone thing moment in the Marvel universe. And so for me,
It makes it feel unique.
it makes it feel unique, but it also really extended upon where we left off in the previous episode, where it was like in last week's discussion we were also talking about the fact that it was like we brought up movies like Split and other movies that have dealt with this like subconscious and split personalities and all of these and The Father, I think I brought up, and it's you do feel like you're in the middle of this struggle with them, because it's like you can feel that he doesn't know what's going on, why should we? And so I thought that the show just did such a brilliant job at showing that in a fresh way that also wasn't so outside of what we have gotten with Marvel. So it didn't feel like we had taken like this huge jump over here and it was like very unfamiliar and kind of like, how does this fit in? But the fact that you really got to see Oscar Isaac really
Yeah.
flex what we had been getting earlier in the show. And Kelly, I know that you brought this up, I think last week as well, when we were discussing like, Kevin Feige and others involved in the project had kept saying like, Oscar Isaac is really going to blow us away. He's really going to blow us away. He did.
Yeah,
And like
this episode is where
there was a
You-
clear build. There was a clear
There's
build
a
to this
moment,
episode.
there's moments in movies and TV shows where an actor is playing two separate people and it doesn't really land. And for this, it totally lands. Like I believe that there are two Oscar Isaacs when I watch him. Like he's
I
that
agree.
good.
I
I have
agree.
two questions that I want to get your guys' take on. First one, have we seen the last of Stephen Grant?
Hmm.
You know
There's-
what? Go ahead, Kelly. I want you to go.
No, there's kind of part of me, if this sounds sinister, that hopes yes.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, and like, yeah. All right,
Yeah.
so let's tag team this, bro. Like, I just think that
All right.
the emotional weight of where
Yes,
we've
that's-
landed now.
That's exactly why. That's exactly.
I don't
why.
want to walk it back. I don't want to walk it back, right? Because again, like I guess my, just a return to my sort of yin and yang of this episode is I love all the things that they're doing that are different. And I think it would be
Mhm.
familiar to be like, aha, he's not dead. Like I just think that would cheapen it a little bit. I think if you guys
Yeah.
are talking about the emotional what's hooking everybody on the show is like the emotional crux. Let's not undo the emotional crux of the end of this episode, right? Like
Yeah.
let's
Well, yeah,
keep
yes, and the emotional crux, exactly, that's a perfect way of putting it, is the fact that this was Mark's way of compartmentalizing his darkest moments and
Trauma,
protecting
yeah.
himself and trauma. So the fact that they had this reconciliation between Steven and Mark and finally coming to terms with what happened in his childhood and what he had done since then, in killing certain people and whatever, as per Conchu's direction. But still, there was all these things that were kind of tied in with that. What you said, Kelly, yin and yang of the between the two of them, to finally have that moment of letting it go, and that being very literal in the sense that Steven just falls over and slowly becomes, almost very graphically in a way, almost
Yeah.
disturbing, the way you see him slowly turn into the hardened sand or whatever they called it. Yeah, it held so much weight, and I think it holds so much weight going forward with that character that I think if you roll it back, it'll lose something for me. I won't be
Yeah.
like, this is stupid, but I will be upset if they do kind of do a cheapened thing. And that's the same reason why they don't want to bring back Robert Downey Jr. And I know everybody keeps going, well, they've got time travel and stuff. It's like, yeah, but if you do it, it cheapens it. It cheapens that
Yeah.
moment. So I think it's
Yeah.
kind of similar to that situation.
I also do think maybe not this season, but I do think we will get the third persona, Jake Lockley, at some point. And so now, like with Steven
agree.
gone, you can do Mark and Jake and whatever. Second question,
Yes.
and then we can get out of here. What is the deal with Arthur Harrow, the psychiatrist? Like, what do we think that is? Like, is that him? That to me was the only part of this episode that was unclear. I was like, why does he keep sort of reverting back to this Harrow's office. There's a lot of familiar stuff in there, so I do
Yeah.
think we'll learn that it's something that Harrow is doing and controlling,
Yeah.
but it's that I'm glad that I'm not alone in that, like, I don't know what's going on there.
No, I like, I wish I had an intelligent s- take for you right now, but I really don't. I guess my most like basic input I can give here is I think it's a manipulation of some sort,
Mhm.
right? Like I think by like he's somehow conjured this image around Mark, and by inputting all these familiar things around, it's like having Mark question like, did these things actually happen, or am I extrapolating? I saw a little statue and my mind has now extrapolated that into a real hippopotamus that I'm seeing in my visions. So
Towerette.
Mhm.
yeah, like
Cowred.
I do think it's a manipulation. I don't think, but I'm really not sure, that we're gonna find out that this is like the real life, and actually Harrow is just a nice doctor man in Chicago, Illinois that takes the bus.
Yeah, yeah, and
Ah,
says, "Don't hurt him.
Yeah,
Don't hurt him."
I don't I that would be really bizarre if
Yeah.
if that was what it was.
I have a slightly different take, and it's not because I think I know. It's just I've had a lot of time to think about this. And because those exact thoughts that Kelly you just said also went through my mind, so it's not like I'm married to any one of these ideas. I do think that there is so much alluding to certain things with Mark and Steven that he is either doing it himself or subconsciously creating these things for himself as a way of either protecting himself or I don't know, just almost like manifesting these things himself. And if you think about the struggle that is going on with Harrow in the quote unquote real world, with Mark and Steven and seeing that kind of confrontation going on and almost feeling like he has the upper hand. Well, if you kind of extrapolate that and kind of put it into this purgatory world that we're in right now, it's very similar where it's like he's put him in this place of authority where he is in charge, right?
Yep.
So it's not like it's out of the realm of possibility that this is just like Steven was something that he created, that this other version of Harrow that is the psychiatrist is also something that he's created just based off of subconscious things that he knows from the real world.
And maybe now that he's like shed himself of Steven, that'll just sort of go away.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
I think
Perhaps.
so
possible.
too. Yeah.
Um, quickly before I sign off here, I have a Moon Knight season 2 or season 3 prediction. I do not think we've seen the last of Randall, the brother.
Oh,
I think at
interesting.
some point in the future we will meet Randall, the brother, who is either not dead or has been resurrected by an Egyptian god or
Well,
something like
we
that.
talked about
Hmm.
all these purgatory type places. I don't know if you guys caught the
Yeah.
little Easter egg where they mentioned the ancestral plane, which is from Black Panther.
Yeah.
So I was
Yes.
like, yes, like I was like, okay,
Yeah.
like so because there were a few people actually theorizing that that's where Mark was, but it's like no, it's kind of similar to the multiverse. There's sort of a multiverse of purgatories or afterlife type places. So I thought that was a cool
It's
Easter egg.
very deep. It's very
Yes, it is
deep.
very
So
deep. Well, guys, we're heading towards the finale. I'm really excited next week. We will probably dedicate an entire episode next week to the finale and just to
Yeah, I
look
think we
back on the
should.
show as a whole and discuss like where we think it's going and that sort of thing. And yeah, so if you haven't yet, hit that like and subscribe button below, baby. You don't want to miss that. And yeah, anything else from you guys before we sign off?
just keep listening and keep watching.
Keep watching. You got to tune in next week to see our review because listen, there were some contentious moments here where we're not really sure what to
Yeah.
expect in next week's episode. So if you want to see how we actually react afterwards, you got to watch. That's just how
Hit
it
that
is.
like
Or
and
listen,
subscribe.
or listen, like and
Thanks.
subscribe. Check it out.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. I'm not going to tell them to subscribe and do my usual spiel because we just did that for 2 minutes.
We already did
Yeah.
it. Bye, guys.
But if you are listening to the audio version, do the same thing for the love of God. Thank you. See you next week.
Bye.
Smooth.